We have been looking at the topic on biblical principles of managing our money. And we first discussed God expects us to be wise in managing the resources that He has given to us. Um, all the resources like time, money, talents, they're all resources given by God to serve Him and be very fruitful in our life. And God expects us to be wise in handling these resources. And we looked at two parables Jesus said to illustrate a foolish person and a wise person. One takeaway from these two parables are one of the sign of a wise person is that he has eternity in perspective, and also God and others in his consideration. Then we looked at the spiritual dimensions of money. Money is, although it is not a spiritual thing, but managing money or handling money is spiritual. We saw that God is faithful in meeting our needs, not only our spiritual needs, but also our financial needs. Therefore, we also need to be faithful to the Lord. And one clear way to demonstrate our faithfulness to the Lord is manage the money the way the Lord wants us. And in one word, what the Lord wants us is money should not be our master. Rather, God should be our master and money should be our slave. In other words, money should not control us. We should control money. Then we looked at a few principles of giving. We should give secretly. What our right hand do, the left hand need not know. We need to give generously, and we need to give cheerfully and voluntarily, without any compulsion. We need to give. We need to give systematically, in the sense that there should be a regular order and pattern with which that we give, so that our giving will be very generous and voluntary giving. At the same time, there also has to be some sacrificial element in the giving. We are not giving out of our surplus, but we give sacrificially. That means we first decide to give and then spend on the other things. There should be commitment in our giving, meaning that we should spend what we promise to the Lord, and that we should give. Our giving should be proportionate, meaning that out of what we have, we give. It's not out of what we do not have. Or in other words, in proportion to our income, in proportion to that we earn, we give. I think the Lord rewards not at the quantity, but probably in the proportion of what we have. How much we give is probably what the Lord looks at. And we should be wise in our giving, in the sense that it's not enough to throw away some money. But just like people of the world invest very carefully in various investments, because not all investments will bring same yield. I think this is a spiritual principle also. Where do we invest our money for the spiritual purposes? That also is important. With this background, we go to the next aspect, the spiritual giving. I divide the using of money into two broad categories. One is to the Lord, a spiritual giving, and the other is our personal money management. I'll first discuss the spiritual giving. It's also important that we should first learn the discipline of spiritual giving before we learn the personal money management. Because when we give to the Lord enables us to manage our money, and because He is the custodian of all our resources. And unless the Lord's blessing is there upon us, we cannot have this discipline developed in our life. So the first area is that we need to be disciplined in our giving to the Lord. So two questions will come, how much to give and how to give. Does the Bible give some indications on that? The New Testament does not give many details about how much to give and how to give, except a few general principles as we listed above. The focus in the New Testament is the quality of giving, and it assumes that the people are aware of the quantity. So we look to the Old Testament to have some clue on how much to give and how to give. New Testament gives the principles of giving, and the quantity and the pattern of giving Old Testament gives. If so, how much the Old Testament expect a Jew to give, and that will give some insights on how we should spend or how we should give to the Lord. In the Old Testament, there are three types of giving are there. In our normal reading, we often skip this because the same word is used in all the context. But there are three distinct type of giving are there in the Old Testament. The first one, I call it as Levitical tithe. We read that clearly from Numbers chapter 18, verse 21 onwards. We read in Numbers 18:21, behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tithe in Israel as an inheritance in return for the work which they perform, the Lord of the tabernacle of meeting. I think you all know that when the Lord delivered the people of Israel from Egypt, later God gave various responsibilities for various people, especially to take care of the tabernacle and the spiritual needs of the people. Lord separated Levi as a tribe and said, okay, they will not have any land when they reach Canaan. All the other tribes will have land allocated, meaning that they have to make their livelihood based by farming and agricultural means. But whereas Levi will not have any land in the sense that, okay, they will have space for making their own house and land enough for feeding their cows and sheep for milk. They are not supposed to do any agricultural work. Rather, they should do priestly service, that is taking care of the tabernacle and all the spiritual needs of the people. They are supposed to take care of the sacrifices and all the other offerings, etc., to the Lord. And the Lord expects the Levites to be completely independent of these botherations. And the Lord said, okay, all your income belongs to me. But nevertheless, as a token of that one, a portion that you have to give. And the tithe, meaning 1/10. 1/10 of all that Israel have, it belongs to the Lord. And practically, God said, okay, what to do with that money? God said specifically, I have given the children of Levi all the tithes in Israel. So the Lord said, okay, the money that belongs to me, that you give it to the tribe of Levi. So that now they will be free from all the other responsibilities and they will take care of the tabernacle and the spiritual needs of the people. So the 10% of their income belong to the Lord, and the Lord has asked them to give to the Levites and priests since they take care of the spiritual responsibilities of the people. And they use this money to support the Levites and priests and the maintenance of the temple and synagogues later. So this is the first 10% of the money that they give to the tribe of Levites, basically to the priest for the service they do. Now the second category of their giving I call as a festive offering. The festive offering The festive offering, we read that about in Deuteronomy 14:23 to 27. This is not very familiar to us. But anyway, we'll read from Deuteronomy 14:21 onwards. You shall truly tithe all the increase of your grain that the field produces year by year, and you shall eat before the Lord your God in the place where he chooses to make his name abide. The tithe of your grain and your new wine and your oil, of the firstborn of your herds and your flocks, that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. And you shall spend that money, verse 26, for whatever your heart desires, for oxen or sheep, for wine or similar drink, for whatever your heart desires, you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your household. So this is called the festive offering, because it says, first of all, it is again another 10% of their giving. And although it says, okay, you can spend this money for whatever your heart desire, whatever your heart desire. That means they can spend it on whatever they desire, but they should be before the Lord your God. So if you put these two principles in together, the Lord expects the people to give an offering, which is around 10% every year, and they should spend for whatever your heart desire. But this is before the Lord your God. So practically, what is the spirit behind this one? It is the Lord, after they reach the land of Canaan, the Lord will establish the tabernacle in one place. And initially it was in Shechem, and later it was in Jerusalem. And all the Israelites were supposed to go every year 3 times to this place and do offerings and sacrifices. So that means, okay, there is money is involved in the traveling. And what they have to do, they have to go there and sacrifice, and especially the peace offering. And then they have to eat that before the Lord your God. That means along with their friends, along with the Levites, along with their family, they will eat, you and your household. So that means the law, this is typically happens along with the Jewish festivals. So the principle here is the Lord want the people to enjoy him along with his family and friends and relatives. So that is called a festive offering. So this 10% of their income, they should use this money for meeting the expense to go to Jerusalem for Jewish festivals and voluntarily sacrifice and to be eaten as a feast with friends and family. So this is basically they are spending this money for enjoying the Lord. Remember the first one, the Levitical tithe, they give it to the Levites and they don't have any control on that money. And this is completely for the needs of the temple and the priest. But the festive offering is an voluntary giving, so that when God gives in abundance and they rejoice along with the Lord and along with the people among them. Now the third category of giving is called charity. So charity for the poor. We read that in Deuteronomy 15:7 onwards. At the end of every third year, I think my reference is wrong. Deuteronomy 14:28 onwards. At the end of every third year, you shall bring out the tithe of your produce of the year and store it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow who are within your gates may come and eat and be satisfied, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. So, so here, what they have to do at the end of every third year. At the end of every third year, we do not know very clearly whether they do it every year or every third year, or different people do it every third year. We do not know, but the principle is this one: at the end of every third year, they have to bring out of the tithe of a produce of that year. That means first year they don't give, second year they don't give, third year they have to take 10% of their money. What they have to do, that and store it up within your gates. And then what they have to do, verse 29, and they have to give it to the Levites because he has no portion or inheritance with you. And second, not only to the Levites, but it includes strangers and fatherless and widow. So it means they are really the vulnerable people of the society. The Levites because they have no portion, and stranger, that is somebody who is traveling through their land, and the poor people, the fatherless and the widow, within your gates may come and eat and be satisfied. That your Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. So this money is, I call it as a charity for the poor. And this money is, if you put in today's terms, this is, since the tithe is taken once in 3 years, this will be around 3.3% of their income. So this is used to feed the poor and the needy people, including strangers. Now, if you put all these things together, how much a Jew typically give? The Levitical tithe is 10%, festive offering is 10%, and charity is tithe once per 3 years. That means per year it is 3.3%. So if you ask how much a Jew would give, the answer would be something more than 23.3%. It may look very huge for us. Okay, but you also remember that when the Lord, remember the context the Lord is giving this command, they were in the wilderness, and Israelites do not have any money with them. Of course, they had some money what they had taken when they left Egypt, but they are not earning anything. They are not getting any crops in the wilderness. They were living upon the manna. At that time, the Lord said, okay, this is how you give. So what the Lord was expecting, when they reach the land of Canaan, the Lord is going to bless them. And out of the blessing the Lord gives, they have to give that. So it may, if you think it is this is something, a huge amount which I have made, then it is difficult for us to give. But you remember that what we have is from the Lord. The Lord is the one who gives us. Lord is the one who enables us. And if you have this perspective, this is not a difficult thing. I'm not going to teach that, okay, you should give 23.3%. That is not my point here. But my point was, this is what God expected a Jew would give. And people say, oh, these things are not applicable to us. Today we are completely free. But if you look at these are Old Testament stipulations, and if you argue that, okay, these things does not apply to a New Testament believer. Nevertheless, if you look at what Jesus told and what is his expectation. For example, you read in Matthew 5:17 and 20. Jesus said, do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill it. For I say to you, that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. So one cannot argue that, okay, one cannot simply close his eyes on these Old Testament principles. Because Jesus said, okay, I have not come to destroy them, but I came to fulfill them. If the Lord has fulfilled them, we also have obligation to fulfill them. Then he says, I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Of course, the Lord is telling in the context of our spiritual righteousness before the Lord. Nevertheless, the righteousness of scribes and Pharisees, they always count this 10%, 10%, 3%, etc., 23%. The Lord is telling we should increase more. Is it not true that the Lord is not teaching here about giving here, but nevertheless, if the Lord has given his righteousness to us and the Spirit of God is indwelling us, and we are living in the period of grace, should grace be more than the law? We all say, spiritually speaking, grace is much more than the law. With grace, we can do more than what the law can do. If so, I think we should be excel in this area also. So anyway, I'm not, again, I say that this number 23.3, etc. is not sacrosanct to a New Testament believer, but the principle is more important. Principle is more important. So how can we practically do this? Okay. So this is what I understand that a New Testament believer can do. The spirit of this verse is that the New Testament believer should exceed in all practical righteousness of a Jew, both in terms of quality and quantity of giving. Since the New Testament gives emphasis on quality and not on the quantity, I would first encourage you to focus on the quality of giving, and then do not neglect the quantity of giving. I know that 23.3 is a huge percentage, and if you do not have a discipline of giving, it'll be extremely difficult to do that one. So I think set aside this number for a while. We will first look into the principle, the quality of giving. So more important than this percentage is some practical principles of giving that can be drawn from the Jewish giving. And this is what I try to follow in my life, and probably it may help you also. So set apart your income into 3 categories of giving: tithes, offerings, and charity. And we can decide on a reasonable percentage for each category. Just for illustration, I would say that, okay, I've decided X percentage of my income will be tithe, Y percentage of my income will be offering, and Z percentage will be for charity. I put X, Y, Z because New Testament emphasis is on quality than on quantity. New Testament does not teach any numbers like this. So this is between the Lord and a believer. So I would encourage that you decide between yourself and the Lord, probably for every year, that you would give this much for your tithe, this much for your offering, this much for your charity. It's always good to mention percentage, because sometimes our income can increase, sometimes some cases our income can fluctuate. So therefore it is good to decide based on some percentage. Then what we have to do, we have to first set apart the tithe. Since the tithe is Levitical money, what I will spend this X percentage of my income for local ministries and global missions. Local ministry is where my spiritual needs are met. Typically, the church where I belong is taking care of my spiritual needs, and so the church needs certain resources, and so we give a portion of money to the local ministry, the local church where I am involved. If there are some spiritual organizations, etc., who is meeting my needs, we can give to such people, such organizations also. And as far as possible, we can discourage giving to individuals, because that will violate the secrecy principle. So one part of the tithe money is for the church, fellowship, and organization that meets my spiritual needs. The other portion is for frontier missions, mission work where I cannot go. I read some mission magazines and talk with some people to identify where there is real work and genuine need. You remember, like I told that, okay, most of the time the genuine work and genuine needs, they will not advertise their needs and broadcast their requirements. So it is our responsibility to find out where this need is taken care. Suppose your local church is involving in supporting missions, and you are completely confident and happy with the way that the church is handling its finances, and then probably you could give all your money to the local church. But I believe that there is a personal freedom in that matter. But I emphasize that some portion of your tithe has to go into the local church, and some portion can go to the global missions. Anyway, the underlying principle is this tithe is for the Lord's work where you do not have any control. Someone else decides, but you give that money to very godly organizations or churches or uh, uh, etc. The second area of giving is offering. Since these offerings are meant to rejoice in the goodness of God, I use this Y percentage of my income for meeting all my spiritual growth and spiritual growth of others. Remember that the principle of the festive offering is for the people to go to Jerusalem and participate in these festivals so that their spiritual life and their relationship with the Lord and other people are enhanced. So applying the spiritual principle, I use this money for spending for my own spiritual growth, like buying spiritual books and study Bibles and travel expenses to attend retreats and camps, etc. And not only for me, this is for spiritual growth of other people, such as buying books, gifts, etc., or taking people for meeting and buying food for various meetings and spiritual guest that is coming at our home, etc., etc. So these are, I am spending this money for the spiritual needs of myself and people around me, including my family, friends, and relatives. Uh, Although I'm spending it for the Lord, here I have full control on how to spend this money. But whereas in the case of tithe, I do not have any control on how to spend the money. And lastly, the charity. Since the charity is for the needy people, I spend a certain percentage of my income for social needs such as buying gifts for secular friends, travel expenses to attend marriages, expense to help especially the relatives in their studies, hospitals, poor people, etc. And I regularly give, I give following this principle as and when the need arise. I also keep an account of all income and spending on each of this category. Uh, it's also always a good principle that we should first set apart the money to the Lord and whatever we desire. Let us say somebody decides, okay, I will give X, Y, Z percentage for the Lord in 2020. Then when he gets the salary, immediately that portion has to be taken out and keep separately. And I practically advise that maybe these days you can have a separate bank account which can be separated from your personal account, so that whatever spiritual money come, immediately you send it to your the other account, and from that you regularly take it and spend it for spiritual purposes. Whether you do it to bank account, but there has to be a separate some kind of accounting is required where you will keep separately. I am suggesting that you keep separate so that uh, you could spend without any compulsion to the spiritual purposes. Early days, I used to keep separate money bags, one for spiritual purposes. But these days, that's not, probably may not be a wise thing. A wise thing could be a separate bank account. At the end of every year, what I do, I prayerfully consider increasing the percentage. I may increase X to little high and Y to little high, Z to little high. And I think we have the freedom to reduce also. But once I commit, let's say for an year, this is what I give, stick to that one. And maybe at the end of the year, probably wait on the Lord. Generally try to increase. I think the Lord gives the grace to increase. But I think this is not an emotional decision, but it is a spiritual decision that you need to take. So I think if you follow these principles, I think this will conform to the biblical principles, biblical pattern, and it will be very helpful. And the Lord has been faithful to me in this area. And the past many years, or since I started earning the money, the Lord always increased my income. In fact, the God always outsmarts me. It is true, literally, what Malachi says in Malachi 3:10. Bring all the tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food for in my house. I and try me now in this, says the Lord of hosts. If I will not open for you the windows of heaven and uh, pour out your such a blessing that there will not be room enough to give. Now, how do we start this giving? What should be X? What should be Y? What should be Z? If you already have some principle, praise God and go ahead with that one. If not, I would suggest that you look at last year, how much that you are be giving for the Lord, and a little bit more than that, you decided that X, Y, Z. So the total this much amount that you will be giving. You give some for uh, the Lord's work, some for your own spiritual needs, some for the charity work, and then at the end of the year, you try to increase that. So this illustration I normally give. A weightlifter lifts 250 kg and he is so excited. But when we try, normally we break our back and wonder how this weightlifter is excited in lifting 250 kg. To us, it is a burden, but to a weightlifter, it is an exciting. So unless you are similar like a weightlifter, you will never know the excitement. So how does a weightlifter start weightlifting? He will start by 10 kg and gradually reach 250 kg. So in the same way, start with a very low percentage giving to the Lord, and however little it is, be faithful to that one. And then maybe at the end of 6 months or at the end of a year, try to increase that. And you would see that all these biblical principles are working out in your life, and we can expect the Lord's special blessing upon this your finances also. So before we look into the personal money management, it's very, very, very important that you should have a spiritual principle of giving. Even if somebody is reckless in the personal money management, I'm not saying you should be reckless, but even if somebody is reckless in personal money management, uh, but if he is faithful in his spiritual money management, I think the Lord takes care of the other part also. But I'm not saying that should not be the case. The Lord aspect in both areas. But the first point, starting point, is giving to the Lord. May God helps us with these thoughts.